Welcome to the Andes Physics Tutor. You can find this at gideon.eas.asu.edu, web UI, login.html, and do it from the comfort of your own browser. We recommend Firefox, but you can use it in any. It works in all. To get started, in order to log in, we need a section. This just remembers us so you can start a problem tonight, finish it tomorrow morning. Username, I put in Ace, it's my name, put in whatever you want. And here we have the problem. I'm going to start out with VEC1A because that's the introductory problem, kind of shows you how this works. There are any number of problems you can put. Here's some examples. If you click Problem Chooser, it'll pull up a list. Put it in here and click Submit, and you'll get a nice little problem to try in Andes. So here we get the Andes UI, and since this is our first time, we get the welcome screen. It says it's going to give me some instructions. And here they are. I'm not going to read them right now because I'm going to be your instructions, but if you would like to read them on your own because you forget something that I say or whatever, you can click on Help, Introduction, and here you go. This gives you a quick introduction of how it works. And you also have the manual. Here you have different helps for physics, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. So in order for you to understand Andes, I'm going to break it down. We have the drawing area. This is also the solver area. Here we have the problem presented. Sometimes we'll have answer boxes where we submit our answers. And this is where we're going to draw all of our diagrams. The idea behind Andes is it's like your piece of paper. You can draw out your problem, break it down into the pieces that you need to solve it, and solve it here. So sometimes it's hard to figure out what to do next, whatnot. So over here on the side we have a tutor pane. Here you're going to get solicited and unsolicited hints. For example, this is already telling me how to start this problem. If I'm having a hard time with this hint, or later on if I need a hint, I can click the question mark and it will give me more hints. Also, I can change the size of this if I'd like, and I can collapse it. I'm going to leave it open because it's going to help us out quite a bit. And now I'm going to show you the tool pane. Here it's kind of like PowerPoint. I'm going to get to how it works like PowerPoint in a minute, but basically you have a line tool, rectangle, ellipse, text tool. You have an equation input tool, vector tool, which allows you to draw on the z-axis for problems that need it. This one doesn't, so it's grayed out. You can't use it. This part is not active, but if it required it, of course it'd be active. Then you have your axes tool. If you're having a hard time reading it, zoom in. You can zoom out or go back to 100%, and there you go. Those are your basic tools. Okay, so let's go ahead and read a little bit of the problem, get started, and start solving this problem. So it talks about, in this problem, a swimmer who's trying to reach a float. The float's northwest of them, and it's 200 meters away, and we're supposed to find the x component and the y component of the displacement of the float for this person to reach. So in order to start out, if I'm confused, well, we got our unsolicited hint we mentioned earlier here, and it's telling me I need to define my x and y coordinates. It's a good place to start. Okay, so like I said before, it's like PowerPoint, which means that if you come over here and you click on a tool, it will activate it. If you come over here and you go ahead and draw with the tool, it will deactivate it. And now it's asking me what to label my axes. And I always leave the default, so I'll just go ahead and push enter. And you'll notice that this turned green. Now the reason it turned green is because we did it right. If we did it wrong, it would turn red. Now, for example, I can take this, select it, if I want to move it around, and I can take my anchor over here and I can twist it up. So let's say for some reason I drew it at 45 degrees. Well, it's going to tell me that's wrong, and it does so by the red. I can take the anchor point, draw again, and get it to 0, or anything over here will snap to 0. Click off, well, it's back to green. Now we need to symbolize a swimmer. Well, the way that we do that is we just take a body, and I'm going to draw it down here, and I'm going to name him Swim. Okay, it turns green, so we're good. Well, if you see over here, our hint said we should name it swimmer, and probably should just because that's what it's called in the problem. So I'm going to click on this, and you'll see that I'm given this yellow area right here. If I double click, I can edit the text or the label. So I'm going to go ahead and change it now. Change it to swimmer. Enter, and there we go. So after we have the body here, now we have a distance and a direction. Sounds suspiciously like a vector to me. If we click on the vector tool here, and we're going to draw it out, you'll notice it says 35 degrees west of north. Well, north would be 90, right? Add 35 to that, and we get 125. So click over here, and now I need to label it. Well, I'm going to say, I'm just going to use a letter to as a variable. I'm going to say, well, D is the displacement of the swimmer. If I push enter, it'll turn it green. That's not the only thing you can write. You could also, if you wanted to keep it a little bit simpler, just say D displacement of swimmer. Okay, and that's correct too. Either way, we're calling it D, and you'll see the D label shows up here on the vector. Alright, so I click off of it, and now we have the vector all set up, but you know, we're given the value here, 200 meters for D, so I'd like to define that. Good way to do that is using the equation tool. And so I'm going to click here, come over, click below, and say D equals 200 meters. Okay, so this told me it was 200 meters. I wrote 200 meters, but no, it turned red. Why did it turn red? Well, it's because of units. Andes uses SI units, the International System of Units. So if I need to find out what units to use, I can come into my help, and here we go. The name is meter. I'm supposed to use M. So close that, come back over here, double click. I'm going to change that. Just delete those, push enter, and here we go. D equals 200M, and now it's right. So I can click off. Alright, so now we need to start breaking things down. The X and the Y direction. Well, if I take my equation tool, I can come over here, click here, and D underscore X is how we're going to break it down for the DX direction. D underscore Y would be the Y component of D. So DX equals D times cosine 125 degrees. Okay, so this is the correct equation. For the X, I'm going to write the equation for the Y. dy equals D times sine 125 degrees. Having a hard time typing. Okay, there we go. So I have my equations, and now I can start solving. Well, if I take my equation, I come over here. This is the cool thing about Andes is once you set everything up, you don't have to plug in the values. You can have Andes solve it for you. And the way you do it is I come here and I say, I need the X component of the displacement. That's what it's looking for here. It's what I need to put in my answer box. So I can say dx equals question mark. I'm asking. And Andes tells me it equals negative 114.7 meters. So now that I've been given that, I can come over here and I can click on my answer box, double click on it, and I can just input that value, negative 114 meters. And there we go, turns green. Okay, so now I need to solve for dy. So I'm going to click on the equation. D underscore y equals question mark. Tell me, and it did. So if I double click here, 163.83. There we go. Now I've answered the problem. So I can submit. That is how you do a basic problem in Andes.